Hi, I'm Gary,
Hello, I'm Leon, the grandfather.
and we are Gary and...
The grandfather.
How you doing tonight?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing actually pretty good. I was kind of thinking to myself, though, it's a kind of a reflective time. I just had a birthday, all of these things, life's moving on. And the other day, I was at the train station, Gary. I'm walking along, and where we live, there's not a lot of poverty, but there is a group of people that seem to just live at the train station. Not too many, and it's certainly not like in other cultures, that you got 10,000 people, right? But
Right.
there's a few, and
Yeah.
I asked myself, what kind of circumstance would produce a man to end up, just doing nothing, basically begging? And these same guys are there year in and year out. It's not like they're just in and out. So
Yeah.
got to be something to do with an emotional breakdown, a broken heart, as I like to describe it. So I kind of was thinking to myself the other day, how do you heal a broken heart? And what does that mean, for starters? It's a big topic, but how do you heal a broken heart? How do you get past trauma? And we all have it. We got the trauma of the school, and we got the trauma of the relationship, and we got the trauma of the age, and we got the trauma of the children, society, money, God Almighty. Just goes on, right? But how do we get past a broken heart? Like, what do you think?
Well, I think it's a very difficult topic to approach, for starters. I think one of the situations, when I was younger, I really didn't see it this way. But as I've gotten older and perhaps more experienced, wiser, one of the things that I always keep in mind, in the back of my mind, is that with every missed opportunity or every door that closes, it's a new door that opens.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's behind that door. So that's the first thing. I always try to take a more positive approach.
Yeah.
Because if you just look at the negative and dwell on the past and the negative circumstances, it'll just lead you into the downward spiral, whether it's drugs or alcohol or smoking or overeating or sleeping around with a million people just to try to
Sounds like fun.
sleep away
Sounds like fun.
you know your
Yeah.
problems,
Your trauma.
your trauma.
I'm kidding.
But none of those things, at the end of the day, there comes a point, if you don't end up dying or something from this bodily abuse. At the end of the day, there comes a point where that cigarette, that puff, it doesn't feel nearly as good as the one before.
Yeah.
Or that drink, or
Yeah.
you're sticking that chocolate cake or pie into your mouth, and you're thinking, man, look at me, I can't even climb the stairs, go up the flight of stairs. And you know that what you're doing is a temporary fix, and that as soon as you're done, you're just going to start feeling the sense of guilt and whatnot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the first thing, I think,
Yeah.
is try to look at every missed opportunity as a learning experience. I like to do self-reflection, and then after that, try to see, where life leads afterwards.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. Second thing, I always try to put my faith and trust in God, whoever you might believe in. It doesn't matter. For me, I put my trust in my Lord, and I use this as the comfort feeling that no matter what happens now, things are going to sort themselves out in some way, some shape or form. And I've been there so many times in many different positions, with career, with my studies at university, love, and every time something eventually worked its way out in one way or another.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. And then the third thing I try to do is, I think with every situation such as this, I see it as a chapter of my life coming to an end. And at that point, I try to start a new chapter. And I think when you start a new chapter in your life, it's time to take up a new hobby, or time to focus on something else. Your career, your health, your, whatever it might be. Maybe your relationship with your family, or your friends, or your community, even. And I think that by mixing it up, it helps get you out of this state of always continuing to compare your life now as to how it was in the past. And what I mean is kind of an aside, but what I mean is this. For example, let's say you and your spouse or your partner, every Friday night you always went to a certain restaurant to eat together. And afterwards you went to a certain movie theater to watch a movie. For example, if something happens to that relationship and it's finished, and then you keep going to the same restaurant on Friday nights, keep going to the same theater afterwards in the same routine, you're always going to be thinking about your spouse, the relationship, the past. Always. You can't help but to compare your life now to how it was in the past. Because in a way, your life is still the same. They're parallel almost. But in another way, something has changed.
Yeah.
But if you mix it up, you go to a different restaurant,
Yeah.
or do a different activity or something else, then you're not constantly comparing your previous life and situation with your current life and situation. And therefore, instead of always having your current situation come out on the bottom, you're going to, you can finally start enjoying your situation for what it is, helping you to, again, move on and get over whatever your situation might be.
Well, I think you touch on, Gary, I think you touch on a very important point. And that is that we often hear about the music, in the music, and et cetera, et cetera. We always hear regrets. I regret this, I regret that. Well, what is a regret? A regret is something that happened, obviously, in the past, in time, in space and time. It's gone. Poof. And a regret is I grab it and I bring it to the present. And I give it energy, and I give it frustration, and I give it anxiety, etc., etc., etc. So, no regrets. Period. Like you were saying, lessons, yes, my God Almighty, there are things I will never do again, but I did them. Whatever they may or may not be, I did them. Good and bad. I did them. They're part of me. And therefore, I have to accept them. I have to do my best to make amends, as I have done, right? Right? And sometimes those amends are not not respected. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, I've had
Been there.
I've done things that you just couldn't apologize for. You try.
Yep.
I did try, but they didn't work out. And and it was really, I mean, I asked myself, why did I even try? Maybe better to have said nothing, but you did. Try to be the gentleman, apologize, right?
Well, just to stop you for a moment, I think it's always better to try to make the amends.
Me too.
Whether the other person or people accept it or not, that's on them.
That's right.
But
That's right.
by making the amends, you can close that chapter of your life.
That's right.
You can say, okay, I did my part.
Yeah.
I can't control how
Yeah.
those people receive it, but I've done what I can do.
That's right.
Therefore,
but they usually receive it poorly. I mean, we have to note this.
well,
You're right.
receive it poorly or not,
Yeah.
the point is,
You did it. You did your bit.
you did it, and because you recognized, hey, there was something maybe I should have done differently.
Right.
You recognized it, you tried to improve upon it, and you try to apologize, tell them, well, if you're just saying it just for the sake of saying, oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. My primary school teacher, she said, if we said, I'm sorry, you know what she used to say to us? Sorry don't work for me.
Yeah.
That's what she'd say. Well, no, she said, sorry doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
but as sixth graders,
Yeah.
somehow we ended up changing it to sorry don't work for me.
Yeah.
And that's what she used to say. And her point was, if you're truly sorry about it, you won't have done it to begin with. But I think when you're, everyone does things that they shouldn't have done, and later as we grow wiser and older, more experienced, and we can reflect upon what we've done, then we understand, maybe I shouldn't have done this, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
And that's the point where you apologize.
Yeah.
If they can't, if you apologize and you truly mean it, hopefully they receive it well. If they don't,
They don't, man.
they don't.
They don't.
But if they do,
Yeah.
or if they don't,
Yeah.
it clears your conscience, because you've done.
Yeah. Yeah. For
You
sure.
realize you did something that that was maybe hurtful or wrong,
Yeah. That's right.
and you tried to make amends.
That's right. So that's the first one, as you were saying before.
Yeah.
No regrets. And then secondly, realize that it's a dynamic life. And what might be horrible right now, the circumstance right now, will pass, or you'll die. You know? Right? I mean, really, it will pass, or, like this is right from Viktor Frankl in Man's Search for Meaning. These are all educated men, and they're being forced to work in some quarry in godforsaken Poland. It's probably 40 below. Their clothing is good for probably 40 above. And they're just, like Nietzsche tells us as well, that the only reality that I occupy is the one I occupy. That I have the chance to make it different perceptually, right? And that's the deal. So no regrets, and look at the reality of what is. It is tough, but it's either going to get better, or it's going to get worse, or you're going to die, right? And usually it gets better, in my experience in life, right? Like, you don't, unless you give up. I mean, I'm sure the people I was referring to before, I was going to say, at the train station, and I've spoken to a lot of these people, and they're victims. This happened to me, and they give you a story. I have no money, I'm an alcoholic, I'm a drug addict, I blah, blah. It just goes on. And eventually you're tired of being a victim, right? I hope. I think all of us, Gary, have been victims. I mean, you probably have. I have. I've been a victim, but it's not fair. What's happened in my life many times, just not fair. But so what? It happened, man.
I think the problem, some of these people, well, like you said, I guess a portion of people, they get so used to the role that they're playing.
That's right.
That they can't get out of it, that they can't even perceive themselves as being anything else.
That's right.
But I'd say another portion of people are people who, even if they are cognizant of their situation and they want to get out, but it's not so easy for them to get out. That it's an uphill battle the whole way. I mean, for example, okay, well, look at myself, for example. I like to, obviously, I like to eat. Look at me. Now, I think to myself, okay, I stay up late. I like to eat. I stay up late. I don't eat a lot of, some of the foods I like to eat are obviously not the most healthful foods. And the list goes on. Exercise, again, with the time I'm always working, doing this and that and the other thing. So the last thing I feel like doing when I get home is exercising. So I think to myself, well, where do I start? To where I see the situation, but to try to change everything to get myself from, being overweight to being, at the right weight. it feels like an uphill battle even to get started, because I think, okay, so I have to go to bed earlier, and I have to start eating healthily, and I have to start exercising as well, and I have to cut back on stress, because stress, causes, hormones which help you maintain your weight and whatnot. So you have all these things all relating at once, and to try to tackle them all at once, it feels really, really difficult, even for somebody who knows where they're at. So I think that's for some people that's the problem, more so than just saying I'm a victim.
For sure, I agree. But you know what changed me in my life, if I could share something a little bit private, is that I came to a point when I was about 45 years old, that I had extreme trauma over the course of a year. Right? And unnecessary what happened, but it was usually trauma is a book. Right? There's not only one chapter.
Yeah, of course.
Right? And it seemed like the chapters kept opening and opening and opening and opening, and I kept saying, "Please, Lord, close the book." Right? And it took a long time for the book to close. And when I was through that, I didn't pop. I felt like I was going to pop, right? And be in the street and be all those things you were describing before. But I opted not, for whatever reason. Pride is part of it. Also, I believe that I have a mission in life. All those things, right? But I didn't. And here I am today, right? On another path totally. And I think that's also the secret to a broken heart. Because my heart, I thought it was going to explode at more than once in my life. And I think you've probably experienced the same, right? And it really hurts. You can actually physically feel the visceral pain deep inside your heart. And I think until you're there, until you're really traumatized by love or something, right? Then you can't really comment, right? Because when you've really been there and you meet like-minded people, they understand. And then it's left or right. I mean, life is relatively simple, isn't it? There's no gray with these matters. You either survive or you don't, right? And the people on the streets obviously have opted not to survive. And once, I have this belief, once your spirit is broken, I don't think it's like breaking your arm. I don't think it heals properly, personally. And my spirit has never been broken. I mean, I've been down and out and pained, but I've never been broken. I always thought I was going to pull it off. That intrinsic feeling. But if you're really broken, I think it's very hard. And I have no association with that because I've never been broken. So I really can't. When a guy talks to me and he gives me that victimized stance, and I look at his eyes, or her eyes, and I realize that these are broken people, gosh, that's the tough one, eh? Like, how do you come back from that, right? Hard to do, right? The traumatized individual. Right?
I think that's the trauma. That's what causes people to change their personality. Like, you can't change your personality
without
naturally.
Trauma. No, I agree.
Without trauma.
I agree. Well, Freud talks about this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, that's, yeah. I think that it takes a lot of effort to try to pull back from and come back from that.
That's right. But if you don't, you die. I mean, maybe you don't die physically, but you die spiritually, emotionally, whatever. You're dead. And we've met people like this. I have. I'm sure you have as well. They're not coming back. And they can pay lip service to change and everything else, but they're not coming back. I think these are finished human beings, and it's great sadness, but I think most people don't.
I think that some of them, I think there's, you can never say never.
No, I agree.
But
I agree.
I think that one of the big problems is that once, I think, like you said earlier, something about pride. But I think pride's a really funny thing, because pride is also going to be the factor that once people do get into these really deep situations.
Mm.
If they get in too deep, I think for some people, they don't want to get the help that they need.
Okay, that's negative pride.
Because to get the help that you need,
Yeah.
you'd have to recognize that you
Have a problem.
have a problem and that you can't get out of the problem yourself.
Yeah.
For example. And then you think about some of these people that, well, even as I think trauma tests your relationship
Yeah.
with your closest, your friends,
Yeah.
your family,
and yourself.
and yourself. But just take your friends and family, for example. I think that, especially your family, but your friends too, your good friends, your true friends. And some of these people, if you're hooked on drugs or you're mentally unstable or something, maybe you're suffering from gambling addiction, so you start stealing from your family and pawning their jewelry or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, horrible things. But at the end of the day, a family's family. At the end of the day, flesh and blood is flesh and blood. So, at what point does the family just say, "Oh well, they're gone. Time to cut the dead wood and or cut the fat off of the family tree, or try to keep getting them the help they need, even if they're resisting it."
Yeah.
I mean, as an example, that even I think if you get to that point where your family even is basically tossing you away, then
time to have a look at things.
Well, I was gonna say, think how are you going to recover from that? Even your family, your own flesh and blood thinks you're worthless.
Well, I mean, there are some things that you can't be forgiven for. I mean, whatever they may or may not be, right? I mean, that's just the way it is. But you, as an individual, have to move past this, or die. I mean, spiritually die, emotionally die, psychologically die, right? Because Gary, I think most people, most family members, will forgive you. Really, I mean, you've got to do something egregious. I mean, kill somebody virtually, or something beyond imagination, right? That's beyond social opprobrium, so to speak.
Well,
and then most families will take you back, usually.
Right? But that's the thing which I think is really interesting, because sometimes I think that, well, I've seen some videos. I like to watch a lot of true crime stories.
Okay.
And I'll see somewhere at in the courtroom, the courthouse, some guy who murders his girlfriend, murders a random woman, rapes her, murders her, whatever. And then you'll get some of these, some of the victim's parents or siblings. There's two kinds. There's the ones which say, I hate you, I hope you rot in hell, and all this. I'm glad to see him sentenced. And then there's the other ones which say, what you did is an unforgivable kind of action, but
we forgive you.
We forgive you because it's
the Christian thing to do.
It's the Christian thing to do.
Yeah.
And you look. I look at people like that. I think, man, that.
Yeah, amazing.
That I think people like that
are really,
who can forgive,
really holy almost.
Yeah, that can forgive somebody.
Yeah.
For something like that, and then there's the guy who can't forgive his friend for, not paying him back $1,000 he borrowed or something. I think, come on, totally different.
I watched a program once, kind of just randomly on YouTube. This kid graduated from high school, and he's a city slicker with the hair and the whole thing. Good looking kid. He takes this Dodge Charger, races down this long strip in Florida, in someplace in Miami maybe or something, and he ran over a woman and her baby, killed them.
Mm.
And he got convicted and he got sentenced to life with no parole, 21 years old. And when he was sentenced, I watched his eyes. His eyes exploded. It just like, and the husband came on and said this, I hope you rot in hell and everything else. And I thought to myself, my God Almighty, you've destroyed 2 lives, plus the action has destroyed another 2 lives, because the husband will never forget and forgive. He will always be bitter.
Yeah.
And the kid is destroyed. So where's justice in all of this? There's no justice.
Yeah.
You know, no justice. And
Yeah,
the
for
parents to give the kid the car.
Hmm.
You know, didn't they know the temperament of their? I mean, I saw myself in this kid driving that car. How many of us haven't taken that car out and
Yeah.
revved it up beyond
It's
imagination?
just that he was the unlucky one who.
He was the unlucky one.
Yeah.
You know, really. You know, and no compassion. In British Columbia, a similar thing occurred, but the woman was drunk. Well, she wasn't drunk, but she had 4 glasses of wine. Went over a bump, swerved to the right. A woman was just outside of Vancouver is an area of a lot of kind of farms, if you will, hobby farms.
Mm-hmm.
Hit a woman who's riding a horse with her granddaughter, and killed the. Crippled the woman, killed the horse, and killed the grandchild. And the woman got 5 years, not 1,005 years, but ruined her as well, of course.
Yeah.
And because legally she was drunk. Maybe she wasn't drunk. It's only 4 or 5 drinks, but enough, you know. So yeah. So I guess the point the point, you know, Gary, is that we gotta reflect on our heart, gotta protect our heart, you know, and never ever let your spirit get broken. Shelter yourself.
Yeah.
Shelter yourself. Whatever you go through in life, make sure you shelter yourself. No regrets, right?
No regrets.
No regrets. Lessons, my God, but no regrets. Yep.
Yep.
So-
totally agree. Totally agree. No regrets.
Yeah.
Reflections.
Lessons.
No regrets.
Lessons. Yeah.
All right. Well, good night, everyone. Gary out.
The grandfather out. God bless you. Take care.
Good night.
Good night now. Bye bye.